Hi, Ben.
Bonjour, comment ça va?
Comment ça va?
Where are you?
I'm still in LA. We're leaving today. We're leaving
Ah,
today.
okay.
We're gonna finish Shavuos first.
What?
We're gonna do Shavuos first.
Okay.
Best on the days, 48b. Yafe koach haben mikoach ha'av. Ben is stronger than the father. Shaben goy ben b'shvua ben b'shalo b'shvua. The son, when he's directly the maldo, the love, he takes a direct shvua, and if he's an heir, so sometimes he'll collect without a shvua, sometimes he'll collect with a shvua if he's an heir. The father, if somebody is moed b'mitzvahs to him, he has to take a shvua. There is no collection without a shvua. Hechidami. The meis lova b'chayim malva. If the borrower died, the lender is still alive. Uktani shaben goy ben b'shvua ben shalo b'shvua. The heir collects with a shvua if there's a moed b'mitzvahs. Uven shalo b'shvua sometimes, depending if he has the start. What's the shvua? Shvuas yorshin. That's the only shvua that an heir can take. Shalo b'shvua krabim shem galil, which is our Mishnah. That if there are eidim that say that the father had made a statement that the shtar had not been paid, then it's collected without a shvua. Amrav Yosef, Hamani be'shamayid, Amri shtar o amid lagavas kagavidoni. A shtar that is ready to be collected on, it's as if it's real mammon there. So the lack of the shvua is not ma'akev, it's collection, because Beis Shammai holds that having a shtar is like having money. Ikla Rav Nachman l'Sura. All Rav Nachman traveled to Surah. All the Gavei Rav Chizda, Rav Chana. Rav Chizda, Rav Ravuna visited him. Amr le'lei simar nekar laha. We should get rid of this psak of Rav Shmuel that you can't yarshan a shvua. It means you can't transfer the requirement for a shvua. Did I travel this whole way to get rid of the psak of Rav Shmuel? Let's at least not add to the stringencies. Kigon mai, Dom Rav Papa. A lender, a lender who admits that some of the payment on that shtar was made, umeis, yorshin ishboin shvas yorshin v'noitlam. His heirs can take a shvua and collect. Haud shachi v'shavik arka. A man who borrowed died, but he had a cosign. We are on Mem Ches Amud Beis, about a little bit, maybe 10 lines now. He has a cosigner who is willing to pay if he doesn't pay. Rav Shmuel only paskin that Yisoimim take a shvua, or that you can't collect from Yisoimim without a shvua, but not to a cosigner. The Oriv stands in the shoes of the Yisoimim. Should be able to take a shvua for him as well. Person died, and his heir was a brother, not a son. Let's not add What's the difference whether a Yorish says, I didn't hear anything from my father about whether the shtar was paid or not? Umali shlopidani achi. What's the difference? It's a Yoresh. So his din should be like a Yosem. He does not Yoresh the Shvua like Rav and Shmuel said. Or Rav Chama. Hashtalo itmar hilchasa, lo Rav Shmuel, lo Rav Elazar. The Gemara didn't seem to paskin like either. So hi Dayana do Ovid Rav Shmuel Ovad. Do Ovid Rav Elazar Ovid. So the Dayan that does like either of the Iman Armim, that's okay. On Rav Papa. I started Yosmi. There was a star that was presented to the assuming that they owe money. Lo mikra karinan lev lo agvi magvinan be. We don't tear it. We don't collect with it. Agvi lo magvinan be dil masfir lo and Rav Shmuel. That they cannot collect because they can't take it for. Mikra lo karinan, we don't tear it up. Hi dina David Rav Elazar. Because there's the shita not like Rav Shmuel. Ovid ahu dina do Ovid Rav Elazar. And there was a dina who did like Rav Elazar. Havet sum rabbanan b'masa. There was a Talmid Chacham in the city. Armalei, I seen a igrusam in Marav the less hilchas of Rav Elazar. We heard we got a letter from Eretz Yisrael that the halacha is not like Rav Elazar. Armalei l'chitaisi. When you bring the letter, we'll believe it. I'm going to meanwhile remain with my psak. Asla kamed Rav Chama. Armalei hi dayana de Rav Elazar avad. We already said the dayanim can paskin like either way. Then the Mishnah said elu nishbon, even without a taina. We said partners, sharecroppers. So the Gemara says atu b'shuftin asking who's going to take a shvuah when there's no claim against them. Achi kamer ve'elu nishbon shelo b'tanas bori. Normally you take a shvuah, somebody says I know that you owe me money, but Elabatana Shema. It's the time, the claim is only, I think you owe me money. And who is that? Ashutofim Varisin, partners and sharecroppers. Tana, Ben Bayis, a person who lives in the house. Sha'amru, that we talked about, that he has to take a shvuah, lo shenichlas v'yotze baragla. It's not like a friend who goes in and out with his feet. We don't make him take a shvuah. Ela shemachnis lo poalim moitz lo poalim. He can hire workers. Machnis lo peres moitz lo peres. He's sort of running the affairs of the assignment. Umayshnaani partners and sharecroppers. Why do they take a shvuah? Mishum demoide b'et heteru. They sort of paskin a heter for themselves. To take, because they work as partners or sharecroppers, they think it's coming to them. So, Amrav Yosef Bar Menuhin Rav Nachman, v'hu sheyesh taina beinayu, shtei kesef. The claim between the partners has to be at least shtei kesef. Kiman Kishmuel, who said that there's no shvuah unless there's a minimum amount. Ay v'atani Rav Chiel l'si'ui l'rav. The denial has to be shtei kesef, not the claim. So, it's the denial of the claim. If the partners decide to divide, then there's no shvuah anymore. But if there's a chiyuv shvuah from some other reason, then we're magalgel this shvuah to them back again. Iboilahu. Ma legalgel b'rabbanon. Let's say the original shvuah was only a shvuah from Rabbanon. Does it have to be a shvuah deraisa or only midrabbanon? Toshma. Loy v'menu arev erev shvius. Person borrowed right before Shemitah. Ulamotzu shvius nasalo shuta for oris. Then he became a partner or a sharecropper with the guy who lent the money. Ein megalgelim. And even though we have this shutaf, the shvuah shutafim, that we cannot be magagel shvuah regarding the loan, because the Shemitah wiped away the loan. Taima lova mena erev shvius. Dasar shvius of kaita. Shemitah came along and got rid of the loan. Ha bishar shnei shvuah. But if it was not, if it was, let's say, in the third year of the Shemitah, where the loan was not made, megalkalin, even though the Shavuos Ha'aris is only Shavuot Rabbanon. Because we asked, is it only Shavuos D'Oraisa or Shavuot Rabbanon? So what's this low tema? You can't be medag that way. That ha b'shar shnei Shavuot megalkalin. Ela ema, you have to say, nasalo shutu for Aris, Erev Shvius. If you became a partner with the guy before Shemitah, ulamotze Shvius love menu, the opposite. And then at the end of Shemitah, he borrowed money, and he's chayv v'shvum in ator megalkalin. Habadek tani lo. We don't need this chiddush. Nasalo shutu for Aris. Erev Shvius, ulamotze Shvius love him megalkalin. It says it before the price. Shma mino shemagaglin b'rabbanon. Shma mino. So we are megagel. It doesn't have to be a shvuah d'oraisa to be megagel, even a shvuah d'rabbanon. Or when we call megaglin, chutz misacher shein megaglin, a shvuah that a worker took, where we said he wasn't paid, so that we're not megagel, because the shvuah was a takana. But Rav Chisda Omer, l'kol ein makilin, we're megagel every shvuah, chutz misacher shemakilin. We don't make him take a shvuah. My binayu, it can binayu liftoach lo. That means, does Bezdin give him a hint to take the shvuah or not? V'ashvius mishametes. So when Shemitah comes, not only does it wipe away the loan, it wipes away the obligation to take a shvuah. But not immediately. Amrav Gidl Amrav Amrav Kra V'zed Dvar Shemitah Dvar Afilu Dibur Mishametes. Even the requirement to speak out of shvuah, the Shemitah wipes away. Let's learn the last.
You want me to keep it in the same or separate?
We can keep it in the same.
Okay.
Now we're going to do mem tests. Arba shoymrim hein. Of course, we know there's 4 types of watchmen. Shomer chinam, an unpaid watchman, a shoyel, a borrower, nosei socher, a shomer socher who's paid, v'asoicher, a renter. Of course, we know each one has different obligations regarding gneva, vaveda, right? So shomer chinam, nishba lakol. He takes a shvuah that he was not negligent. With that shvuah, he doesn't have to pay for anything that happened, whether it's nignav, whether it's stolen, whether it's lost. Shoyel misham sakol. There's no shvuah for him. He has to pay for everything. He has the highest requirement to watch. If there was an oines, if there was a gneva, noise is charva soicher, right? A paid watchman and a renter nishboim, ala shvira or ala shviya vela mesa. If the animal broke its leg, or was taken prisoner, or died, because they're potter if these things happened. So he has to take a shvuah that he was not negligent. But he's chayiv gneva v'aveda, so mishamin is aveda v'gneva. So we see the 2 extremes. Shomer chinam takes a shvuah on everybody. Shoel pays for everything. Shomer socher and a soicher is half and half. And we go into detail. You give somebody to watch your ox. You don't pay him anything. And then you come back and get it, and you say, where's my ox? Amrlo mace. But really, the animal had not died. Rather, nishbar or nishbo nignevo avad. It was really stolen or lost, broken. The problem is, the lie doesn't save him any money. Saying that it died, he's potter. If he said that it was nishbar, nignev, it was potter. So the only time that you're chayiv, either korban or to pay, whatever, is your lie is going to save you money. But here doesn't save you money because he's potter anyways. And we'll go through the whole litany. If the shomer tells you nishbar, that it broke its leg, or the hushameis or nishbar or nignev oavad, but rather it had died or taken prisoner or stolen, or he said nishbar, was taken prisoner, one of the other things that happened to him. Or he claims nignav, or he says avad was lost, and the truth was hu shemeis or nishba nigna. On all these cases, if the owner says mashbiach ani, swear to me, the Omar Amen, so even though he took a shvua sheker, potter, he does not have to bring a korban asham. Because each one, he didn't try to potter himself through the lie to pay, because he would have been potter anyways. Now, if he says to the shomer chinam heichan shoyri, v'omer lo eni yodea ma'atasach, he denies the whole thing. I don't even know what you're talking about. You never gave me an animal. And that was a lie. And he says, Mashbiach ani, take a shvua v'omar amen potter. Because again, he wouldn't have to pay on any of the other things. So the lie didn't save him money. So he's potter from a korban asham. If you say to him, Heichan shoyri omer lo ovad, he says it was lost. And Mashbiach ani, do you swear v'omar amen? V'ha'edim me'idno so she'achlo. And Edim come along and say, no, we saw him eat it. So, Mishalim Keren. So he has to pay the value of the shore because he took it for himself. But, Hoyde Ma'atzmo, if Edim didn't come, but he admitted after he took the shvua that he lied about the shvua, and he admitted that he ate it, so, Mishalim Keren v'choymish. So he has to pay the way in a case of shua seprikodim. Somebody says, I gave you something to watch, and he takes a shua that he lies. So the din there is you pay keren v'choymish. And the asha. And he has to bring a korban asha. Similar case, you say to the shor, Heichan shoyri, v'amar lo nignav, it was stolen. And he says, Mashbiach ani, v'amar amen, v'edim eidno so, Shagavro, they say he stole it. So that's the special din of Tainas Gonav, where if he really stole it, he pays like a Ganav, Mishan Tashlume Kefel. But then im Hoidem Atzmo, so when you're a Moide, you don't pay the Knas, Mishalim Keren V'choymesh V'asham. You don't have to pay the Kefel. Amar Le'echad B'shuk. You tell somebody in the market who's not a shomer, so it's not a pikadon. He's not a shomer. You say, you stole my ox. Where is it? And he says, I didn't steal it. And Edim say, no, he stole it. So he's a ganef. And tabach u'mochar, if he shechted it and sold it, like a regular ganef. Ra Edim Shemeshamshin Voim. The guy was the ganef from afar, sees Edim coming, and he knows they're going to testify against him. So he quickly jumps the gun and admits, Vomer Gonafti. Yeah, I stole it. Because he's moide b'knas potter, he only pays the keren. No kefil, no arba v'chamish. Armala shoyel. Now a shoyel is responsible for everything. So he says to the shoyel, Heichan shoyel, where's my ox? And Amar lo mace. He says it died. And really, unishbar nigna v'ava. Now, he's required to pay no matter what he said. If he didn't say it or any of these things, he would have been requirement. So the false shvua is not going to save him any money. And similarly, nishbar, he claims it broke. He claims nishba was taken prisoner. He claims nigna. Or he says avad was lost. In all these cases, if the owner says mashbiach and they swear, he says yes, potter. He doesn't have to bring a korban shvua because he would have to pay no matter what. the false shvua didn't pater him from payment. Now, if he says, Heichan shoyri, where's my ox? And Omer lo ini yodea ma tasach. I don't know what you're talking about. V'hu shemeis o nishba nigdav u'nefad. And he says, Mashbiach ani, take a shvua, and he says, V'omar amen. Chayv is chayv on a korban. Because there he would have, by saying, I never knew what happened to it, and he would have been pater from, that would have patered him from the chiyuv. So in that case, he's chayv a korban. Omer l'noisei schar l'soicher. Now we're talking about a shomer socher or a renter, which we said, he's chayv for gneva v'aveda, but pater for the others. He says, Heichan shoyri. You say to him, where's my ox? And Omer lo meis. And he says, it died. That would have patered him. V'hu nishbar, not nishbar, which also would have been patered. Or he says, nishbar, it broke, v'hu meis nishbar. Or he says, nishbar, v'hu meis nishbar. Now, if he says nignav, v'hu and again, he's chayv for gneva v'aveda. So by saying nignav, he's not really changing the facts. He says ava v'usha nignav. If he says mashbiach ani, I make you swear v'omarin potter, because he's really not changing the din with that shvua. Whether according to what really happened or according to what he said, he's potter. However, here's where it makes a difference. He says meis o nishba, which would have pottered him. And what really happened is who should nignav or avad got stolen or lost, where he's high for that. So his shvua is going to get him off for payment. And he says, Mashbiach ani v'amar amen chayiv. Because by the claim and the false shvua, he wanted to potter himself from a financial responsibility. If the shomer says ovad o nignav, which l'chor would make him pay, and the facts of the case is shemeis or nishba, and he says mashbiach ani v'amar amen. So he tried to make him chai for money that he wasn't required to pay. So there's no korban in that case. What's the principle? Zaklal. Call mishane any shomer who takes a shvua lying, and it makes him mishane michoiva. It makes him not have to pay. Potter. Mechoiva liftor chayiv. But he took a shvua to pater him. He was really chayiv. He would have to pay. He would have to bring the korban. Ze aklal kol anish b'lahakal atzmo chayiv. If he tried to make it easy on himself, he's chayiv korban. Lahakal atzmo, to make it worse, potter. Now, Mantana Arbishom. Who is the author of this Mishnah that talks about the Arbishom? Rav Nachman Ravu and Rav Meir. Only Rav Nachman. Me ikatana the less they Arbishom. Understand? It's only Rav Meir. Is there a Tana that doesn't hold about these Arbishom? This is what I was asking you. Mantana the Omer Soicher Kenoiser Schardami. Who is the Tana that learns that a renter is like a shomer socher? On that, on Rav Ravua, Rav Meir. We've heard just the opposite. It's not. Soicher, renter, Ketzad Mishal. Rav Meir, Omer, Kashomer Chinam. Right? Not like a shomer socher. So, and Rav Yudah, Omer, Kashomer socher. So, Rabba Baravua, Ibchatani. Rabba had a version of the Mishnah which was opposite. That Rav Meir said is that the soicher goes like a shomer socher. Freit Gemara comes out, Hani Arbo Havi Shloishav. These four, they're really like three, because a shomer socher is like a soicher. Halachically, it's just three. And Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak, yeah, Arba Shoimim Dineim Shloishav. There are four types of shomrim, but halachically they have three different dinim. We said we went through the case Echan Shoiri, and then we had the case of Amr Lechad B'Shuk to a stranger. We had another case of Shomer Socher, Hechan Shoiri, and Armelo Eni Yodea Mata Sach. So if they're not makel, the general rule was, if they were not makel of themselves with the shvua, they were potter, even though they swore falsely. Amar Rav Kulon Ptur Mishvua Shoinrim, but Chayav Mishum Shvas Bitui. Just like taking a shvua, and I say, I'm going to eat this piece of cake. He doesn't eat it. He has to bring a korban. So they swore falsely. They're potter from the din of shvua shoimrim, but from a shvuas bitu they're chayiv. That's Rav. Shmuel Amar Af Ptur Mishum Shvuas Bitu. They're potter from everything. But my kamifli, what is Rav and Shmuel arguing in? Shmuel Savar less belahaba. You cannot take this type of shvua for the future, that this item will be stolen or will die. So any shvua that can't go forwards and backwards, or certainly going forwards, according to Shmuel, it doesn't qualify for shvuas bitui. Like, I'm going to eat in the future a loaf of bread. If you can't do it, then there's no shvuas buti, and then shvuas bitui. And in this case, the shomer cannot say, "Oh, I take a shvua that this is going to be stolen." He doesn't know this future. But Rav Sava, the Geder, is Isa B'Lavehein. They can say, I take it's not that about the future. They can say, I take a shvua that it's not going to be stolen. Or I take a shvua that's going to be stolen. So in such a kind, you are going to be chayv bitui. Frag the Gemara, we already had this machlokes somewhere else, the Itmar. Shvua shazar kloni tzor liyam. I took a shvua that Chaim Yankel threw a rock into the ocean. Or shvua shaloy zarak. Or I take a shvua that he didn't throw it. Rav Chayiv, because he took a false shvua, belavu veheim. Ushmul Amar Potter. Rav Chayiv, this belavu veheim. Shmuel Amar Potter de lesser laba. It's a past tense shvua, not in the future. You can't take a shvua what's going to be in that case. So we already had this machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. Why am I repeating it here? So the Gemara says, tzricha, I need to repeat it here. Tzricha. The Ashmin and Baha. If I only had the case about the machlokas when we talked about the guy threw a rock in the ocean, Baha ka'amar Rav. There Rav says he's chay. Mishum deminafshe kemishtabel. He himself is taking a false shvua. But in our Mishnah, with shvuas hashoimrim, where the Beis Din makes him take a shvua, maybe emu moedel lishmuel. Ravami. Ravami kol shvua shalayom mashmino so ein chayvin lo mishum shvuas bitui. A false shvua that dayanim give do not fall under the get of a shvuas biti. So the Gemara says, "Iyad marbaha." And if I would have had the machlokes only in our Mishnah about the shoimrim, maybe baha kamer Shmuel that he's potter, like Ravami about shvuas dayanim. But maybe in a case of the person throwing the rock in the water, maybe a more little Rav that he's chayiv. So tzricha. Gufa. We're going to analyze something in detail. If a dayani makes somebody take a shvua, and it's a false shvua, they don't bring a korban for shvias butu. Shenemar, oy nefesh kisi shervalu vatibes fasayim. Me'atzmo. He has to take the shvua of himself, not by dayanim. Kireish Lakish. Reish Lakish, ki mishtamis ba'arba l'shoynes. I dilma elodaha. If a person uses these types of words, if, maybe, perhaps, that means if a person took a shvua by himself, but not when Beis Din did it. Okay, we'll stop here because we'll save the rest for the seal. Okay, now I want to do a little bit of a